Hello, and welcome to Know Before You Go, a program of the Dominican Central Province of St. Albert the Great that allows us to take a look ahead at the upcoming weekend's readings. I am Father Jim Marchionda from St. Pius Priory here in Chicago, and I am happy to be with you as we approach the 25th Sunday in Ordinary Time. The readings for this 25th Sunday come from the Old Testament Book of Wisdom, from the Apostle St. James in his letter, and from the Gospel of St. Mark. They are a combination of readings that are all interwoven. Wisdom is related to the Gospel, and the Gospel is related to the letter of St. James. And they contain both warnings and positive instruction. The warnings are somewhat of a hand slapping to the apostles then and to us, against self-centeredness, against self-absorption, against selfishness of every kind. Now, at the same time, that is the caution we get and the warning, the hand slapping. We also get affirmation of what we are supposed to be. And that has to do with selflessness. Instead of selfishness, we are invited to be selfless in our service of God and in our service of one another. The Book of Wisdom is somewhat of a prediction of what is going to happen to Jesus that we hear also predicted in the Gospel. The Book of Wisdom says, "The wicked say to themselves, 'Let us put the just one to the test. Let us make him prove his gentleness. Let us try his patience. Let's torture and kill him.' Because even he said God would protect him." So you get from the Old Testament this forecast of putting someone good to death. And then in the Gospel of Mark, we hear Jesus actually on his way back to home with his disciples, telling them that this is going to happen to him. So he says, what we heard in the Old Testament from the Book of Wisdom is going to happen to me. I'm going to be handed over to men who are going to torture me and who are going to kill me. But in 3 days after that, I will be raised up. Now, they didn't understand it at all. And they were also afraid to ask, somewhat ashamed because of what they themselves were concerned about and what they were talking about. So when they get home, here Jesus is telling them the most important news of his life. When they get home, he says to them, "By the way, what were you talking about on the way?" And they fell silent, mainly because they were so ashamed in talking about which of them was the most important to Jesus, which of them ranked the highest. How embarrassing. How embarrassing for the disciples that they were so consumed with themselves, they were so self-absorbed that they couldn't understand Jesus at all. And hopefully they were ashamed enough of what they were talking about to not even ask. So then the gospel goes on, and it says Jesus takes a little child and puts it in front of them and says, "Whoever receives a child such as this in his innocence, in his or her vulnerability, receives not just the child, but receives me. And whoever receives me receives the one who sent me." So we hear this great challenge in Jesus telling them, whoever wants to be first must be last and servant of all. So get over yourselves, gentlemen. Get over yourselves. Quit being so self-centered. Quit being so self-absorbed. Quit being so selfish in what you're looking for out of life. And that's the part that allows us to hear clearly what the Apostle James is saying in his epistle. He starts out right away saying, jealousy and selfish ambition lead to disorder and foul practice. Jealousy and selfish ambition have no part of us. Jesus was trying to tell that to them, and Jesus would tell that to us. Jealousy and selfish ambition, can have no part of us. And instead, James goes on to say wisdom instead is pure and peaceable and gentle, compliant, full of mercy and good fruits. And then goes on to say the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace for those who cultivate righteousness. My friends, this is where the affirmation is coming in and inviting us to think not of ourselves, not of our place, not of what we want, but out of what is needed and into what we can serve. There's a whole flip from self-centeredness and self-absorption to selflessness and servanthood. These are great readings, and James ends by saying, where do the wars and the conflicts among you begin? Don't they begin because you are too caught up with yourselves? Very simply, and man, can we use to hear this in the world today, and in our country, and in the politics today? Can't we benefit from hearing the challenge of the 25th Sunday in Ordinary Time that cautions us to not just make all our concerns about us, but advises us instead to make sure we assume our rightful place in line with Jesus as selfless and as servant of all. Let us try to figure out today, as we pray over these readings, where we fall. Let's not fall in self-centeredness. Let's return to selflessness and assume our proper position as true disciples of Jesus Christ. God bless you all.